Knowledge check 4 is a true or false question. Is this statement true or false? If some randomly assigned youth lack parental consent to participate in a study, it is not necessary to factor them into attrition calculations. This statement is false. According to the WWC, loss of sample due to lack of consent after random assignment is attrition, and the overall and differential attrition calculations should include this attrition. After a study randomly assigns individuals, it should collect data for all of them. Knowledge check 5. In a randomized controlled trial, researchers assigned 250 students to the intervention group and 210 students to the comparison group. 21 students withdrew from the study after random assignment. Using the optimistic threshold, does the study have high or low attrition? A. High attrition. B. Low attrition. C. Unclear, not enough information provided. The correct answer is B. This study has low attrition. Although it is unclear how the 21 students who withdrew from the study were distributed to the intervention and comparison groups, we can calculate attrition under a worst-case scenario with the 21 students either all in the intervention group or all in the comparison group. Overall attrition is 4.6% in either scenario. For this level of overall attrition, even if differential attrition is as high as 10.5 percentage points, the study will have low attrition under the optimistic threshold. If we assume that all 21 students were in the intervention group, we find differential attrition is 8.4 percentage points. If we assume that all 21 students were in the comparison group, we find differential attrition is 10.0 percentage points. Using the worst-case differential attrition result of 10.0 percentage points, the study has low attrition under the optimistic threshold. In this situation, the WWC would not need to ask the study authors how many students withdrew from each group. No matter how the students divide, attrition will still be low because it was low in the worst-case scenario. Knowledge check 6. A study enrolls 20,000 youth and randomly assigns 15,000 of them to the intervention condition. The researchers collect immediate post-test data on 18,000 youth, 14,000 intervention, and 4,000 comparison. They collect 6-month follow-up data on 17,000 youth, 13,500 intervention, and 3,500 comparison. For the 2-year follow-up, the researchers can afford to collect data from only 10,000 youth, half of the original sample. Which option for subsampling would not count as attrition? A. For the 2-year follow-up data collection, the researchers propose to randomly select 7,500 of the 15,000 intervention group youth and 2,500 of the 5,000 comparison group youth. B. For the 2-year follow-up data collection, the researchers propose to randomly select 7,500 intervention group youth and 2,500 comparison group youth who participated in the 6-month follow-up data collection. The correct answer is A. The subsampling does not count as attrition using this approach. The researchers proposed to select a subsample from the initial randomized sample to follow up. The WWC would assess attrition at the 2-year follow-up time point relative to the 10,000 youth selected in the random subsample. Choice B is incorrect because the subsampling using this approach counts as attrition. The researchers proposed to select from among the youth who responded to the 6-month follow-up. Because this is not a subsample from the original sample, the researchers are not applying the exclusion criteria in the same way to both the intervention and comparison groups. The WWC would assess attrition at the 2-year follow-up time point relative to the 20,000 youth who originally went through random assignment. This concludes our review of attrition, Module 2 of the WWC's Group Design Standards Training. Let's review what we learned in this module. We discussed the WWC's attrition standard by introducing the concept of attrition and explaining how the WWC assesses attrition for RCTs. We learned why attrition is important, how to calculate attrition rates and apply WWC standards for RCTs, and how to identify what the WWC does and does not consider attrition. For another summary of the WWC attrition standard, see the WWC standards brief on attrition, available on the WWC website. In Module 3 of the training series, we will discuss the WWC's equivalence standard, which the WWC applies to studies that use randomized controlled trials with high attrition and those that use quasi-experimental designs. Just a few final reminders. You can access all the resources mentioned in this module through the WWC website, whatworks.ed.gov. Please note that the full slide deck for this module is available on the WWC website. This includes detailed responses to the knowledge check questions. To receive a certificate of completion for viewing these training modules, you must view the videos on the WWC website. Thank you for viewing the attrition module.